Jarrett Ferrantino is joining us, trial lawyer and co-host of Primetime Crime on YouTube. You can find him at jarrettferrantino.com. Jarrett, in a lot of jurisdictions, judges no longer give a jury instruction to the jury about evidence of flight. That's no longer allowed for the judge to instruct the jury that flight can, doesn't have to be, but can be construed as evidence of guilt when someone tries to flee the scene. However, the prosecution can still argue it. Let me give a good example. Scott Peterson, that's a great example. Remember when Lacey's body had washed ashore, as well as his unborn son Connor's? Scott Peterson dyed his hair, loaded up on Viagra and condoms and a fake ID, and tried to skip town. He was caught. He also had a water purifier and camping gear. In my mind, that's evidence of flight equals evidence of guilt. So in this case, how would you differentiate the GLAM PhD student Virzi with Peterson?
So Nancy, consciousness of guilt is admissible in Pennsylvania. What Nicole Virzi would have to do in this case is explain away that conduct. She would say her plans for some reason changed. Anything to rebut the fact that she was trying to hightail it out of town would be something she could rebut. The argument that, in fact, she was leaving, she was on her way out of town to avoid responsibility for these charges.
Hey, Ferrantino, let me see him, please. I love what you just said. Her plans changed. When? At 3 a.m.? When did her plans change? But I do want to follow up on something that Jarrett Ferrantino says. And look, he's between a rock and a hard spot. You take your client the way you find them. What do you think you're going to get? A nun, a priest, a virgin, Sister Teresa? That's not happening, okay? Mother Teresa is not going to be your client. You're stuck with Virzi. So you've got to somehow Rumpelstiltskin. You got to spin that straw, that hay, into gold. Defense gold. So he just said that she could argue her plans had changed. Alexis Tereszczuk, crimeonline.com investigative reporter, what were her plans? I thought she was going to stay in the Airbnb a few blocks away from where the children were apparently assaulted. What plans changed? Her plan was to be there for multiple days after.
Exactly. She had at least 2 more nights on the Airbnb reservation. She was going to stay with her friend, hang out with the babies. She had emailed the owner of the Airbnb and said, I'm going to be here, just so excited to stay in your lovely place. Nothing about, I'm only staying 1 night after I was in the hospital with my friend's baby. She had definitely not planned to leave the Airbnb early.
So taking a look at this timeline to Brian Fitzgibbons, Director Operations, USPA Nationwide Security, leading a team of investigators. You can find him at uspasecurity.com. Brian Fitzgibbons, what do you make of it?
Listen, you look at the timeline when she makes that call to 911 at 11:15. All right. She already knows what's occurred inside of that house and what's happened with that baby. All right. At this time, a horrific thing has already happened. Police have now, by the time she's absconding in the early morning over that 6-hour span, right, police have had a chance to process that crime scene. That's why they were waiting outside the Airbnb when she was trying to make her escape.
So let's backtrack it to her coming home from the hospital, leaving her friend, the mom, and the dad at the hospital with baby Leon, hoping he survives. Listen.
EMTs transport Leon Katz to the hospital shortly before midnight, and his father, Ethan Katz, and Nicole Virzi drive to the hospital separately. Savannah Roberts is still at the hospital with Leon's twin brother, Ari, who is being treated for mysterious injuries to his groin area. Nicole Virzi doesn't stay at the hospital long. She's seen arriving back at her Airbnb shortly before 1 a.m., appearing nervous as she struggles to unlock the door. Grim-faced with her cell phone in one hand, she enters the door code to enter the apartment building. Virzi has to enter the code a couple of times before getting the number right and entering the building.